All right, here we are, another week around the trash fire. Your host with a song with the boy.
John.
Well, it's just 40k, 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 which makes sense. We are at the final month before it actually comes out.
Yeah, no AOS stuff besides Warcry on the horizon, or at least anytime soon.
Now we're getting rules, we're getting army previews. A lot more stuff than we got out of say ninth edition, which wasn't really much of a surprise going from 8th and ninth, but this is a lot of exciting things, a lot of stuff to wonder what is gonna be happening in this edition. So these uh four, five army focuses are gonna give us a good lowdown, and we're gonna take a good look at this.
I actually haven't read them, so it's gonna be interesting to check it out.
All right then, well then, be good to get your insight on it then. Let's see. Anything else big news? We got the classic GW running out of product, and Scalper's getting a little out of hand. Of course, there's that top
So I,
story.
I actually not figured out, but but there's been some news going around about why that's happening. And the reason is that the plastic machines are on overdrive making Leviathan boxes because they don't want to sell out on that. So they kind of underproduced with a lot of products coming out, like the Lion, like some box sets, like Kill Team, in preparation for the the 10th edition launch.
Yeah, that is one excuse, I guess.
I wouldn't say it's an excuse. I mean, I think it's a legitimate kind of choice you have to make as a miniatures manufacturing company. It's like you gotta, because Leviathan will sell more than probably this month's releases combined with last month's releases, maybe even the ones from the previous month, just because of the intensity of this edition.
Mm.
So there's a lot of hype around it, and I can imagine a lot of people picking up the box. I mean, I was at a Star Wars Legion tournament over the weekend, and a lot of people were talking about, yeah, I'm gonna get back into 40k, or I'm gonna get started with 40k with a new box. So I think that, I think that making sure that the launch is good is worth the sacrifice of stuff like the Lion, which you could make more of later, and Kill Team, which those will come out eventually, as evidenced by the Arbites and the Arbites. Dark Eldar is still nowhere in sight for some reason, but kind of sucks though. Yeah, for the Gallo team, Gallo Fall. If you're into that, it's sold out because it still sucks, right? I mean, it doesn't not suck to not get your product because another product is being prioritized, but yeah, I don't think it's kind of like an incompetence thing or lack of foresight. Maybe it's not easy making miniatures producing factory. Just ask Privateer Press. Just ask Asmodee, where they had sold out of products for a while because they couldn't they don't have the capacity to make more Star Wars Legion models, War Machines, the same thing. That's why they switched to 3D printing, which they're barely keeping up with, from what I hear. So it sucks for non 40k fans, but I mean 10th edition is a beast, and I think the prep is already begun. Just making sure that, because they want Leviathan to succeed. I think if Leviathan sells out, that's a bad sign, because that product needs, we can't have this controversy of being sold out with Leviathan.
Yeah, well, you gotta prioritize their money because at the end of the day, they are a business. So I totally agree with you in that Leviathan is probably being put more resources into than Gallo Dark and the Lion and whatever else we're gonna be getting like this Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
it just, with GW getting more and more popular every day, week, month, it's getting harder and harder for them to keep up with demand. So,
Yeah, that is a big thing. Yep. With more product, because the popularity is growing exponentially, and like I mentioned earlier, you can only build so many miniature making factories in a certain period of time. So you got to make some choices.
Yep. Well, let's see if we can get into the news, shall we? We're gonna start a little different today. We're gonna just start off with a new model Monday, because it's gonna be Blood Bowl, and we're getting a Minotaur Blood Bowl figure, which overall not bad. You could definitely get away with this. It's just a normal Minotaur model.
100%. This is one of those Blood Bowl, not Blood Bowl models they could easily slot into an AOS army without really trying.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty cool looking model too, especially with that Hellhound at the on the shoulder pad there.
Right.
Very nice looking model. As with the goes with their Minotaur line that they've recently revamped with the new Slaves of Darkness. But it's pretty much all I can really say about this, because in the end it's just a Minotaur for Blood Bowl. Cool that it exists. Cool that it will have multiple purposes other than just Blood Bowl model. But moving on to our classic bit of Sunday preview, we're getting the Warcry new box set, Nightmare Quest, that they featured in Warhammer Fest. So that's already coming out. We've already gone over all this last week, so not too much to go over with this. Being sold on its own, we're getting the how you say this? This Kugan True Blades, the Samurai Vampires. They're finally being sold on their own, which is a nice if you wanted to pick those up without picking up the other people's, the Claws of Karnak, who are also becoming on their own as well. Two very unique looking war bands there, being sold on their own if you wanted to pick one of those up and not the other. Getting that. Horus Heresy. We are getting some tanks finally coming out. I know they're not the troops that John wants, but those will be very far out into production, it looks like. But we're getting all the variants that they've showed over the last few months.
Yeah, this is super lame because it's just the resin models with new plastic sprues, so nothing really new here besides woohoo and new weapon sprues, which will probably up the cost. So honestly, this is kind of bad news for everyone. I don't know anyone who's happy about this, but it is what it is. It's Forge World. You're already paying a lot for it. But it does kind of suck that they're up. You're going to see products that are a little bit more expensive for slightly more options instead of just new plastic kits. But oh well.
Yep, there is that. Black Library. Just getting Bright Slayer released again in digital and softcover and audio. Prince Mesa. Or Mesa? Yeah, Mesa. Being put in softcover. White Dwarf, we're getting number 488. Looks like some new rules and background for Warcry. Some more lore regarding Lionel Johnson. Let's see, what else are we getting in here? Boarding action, unstable structure tiles. So, just looks like a bunch of additional rules for the specialist games kind of looking like coming out of this White Dwarf here. Warhammer Plus, we're getting Hammer and Bolter coming back. We're gonna get Undercity. We're gonna get a Kill Team Battle Report, probably of Gallo Dark. And that's pretty much it. That is everything that's coming out for pre-order this week. I think now we can talk about all the Warhammer 40k stuff that they've been previewing, because there hasn't really been anything else they've been showcasing, unless I completely missed it. But first on the agenda here, we got the mission cards. We didn't talk about this last week. One, because I forgot to put it in the news cycle. But GW will now be doing a new system of objectives, going the way of, what was it called? Tempest of War. It's kind of going Tempest of War style, where we'll be using the cards for our objectives. So, going with the mission objectives here. Is this the one? This is not the one. The primary missions. So here we go. Primary missions, current edition. There'll be map cards. There'll be primary mission cards, secondary mission cards, and what they call gambit cards, which will be something you Hail Mary to try to get yourself back into the game. According to the primary objectives, you'll get 50 victory points by the end of the game. Secondaries, you'll score 40, and with speculation out there, they're still probably going to keep the 10 victory points for having a painted army to round it out to another 100 points. But that has not been confirmed in this article. So this will be an interesting thing to go with. Looking at this primary mission card that they are previewing here, it says at the end of each command phase, turn it scores 5 victory points for each objective marker they control, up to 15. So this is just your standard take and hold. Player who has first turn VP describes above. Player who has the second turn scores VP described above, but does not score at the end of their but does so at the end of their turn instead of the command phase. So if you're going second, you'll be able to score this at the end of your turn, whereas at first you score at the top of your command phase. Standard stuff there. Secondary missions, they give us a overwhelming force. While this mission is active, each time an enemy unit that started their turn within range of an objective marker is destroyed, you score 3 victory points to a maximum of 5 victory points. So this one is good for if you draw this one. You can score, if you're consistent in killing a unit on an objective each turn, you can easily max this out in 3 turns if you can somehow kill just a little bit in here, 6 units, so 2 units a turn on an objective. So there's that way to max that secondary out. There'll be 16 different secondary objectives. All these can be played as tactical, meaning you'll use the whole deck and draw secondary missions at random. Or you can use the fixed missions, meaning you select 2 specific cards, stick with them the entire game. So you can either, you got 2 ways of playing your secondaries here. You can draw a card each turn, or you can stick with just 2 objectives and try to score them that way. So that gives you more flexibility on how you want to play your army. You can also more impactful on your games, I guess, would be a good way of saying it, when you find out that the map and your army that you're playing against as well. Let's see what else we got here. If you're using your tactical missions, you can discard each card. That secondary mission and replace 1 discard of the cards in the next command phase, meaning you can't cycle through your whole deck and hit 40 VP in 1 extremely lucky turn. There are other ways to discard unfavorable secondary missions, but they are limited to have their own cost. So you can't just, they're saying there's no way you can steamroll your whole deck and win the game in turn 1 with a lucky rolls and setup. But there we go, we're getting that. Gambits. This is a big one that they're trying to push. I don't know if this is gonna be worth it in the end, but I guess it is an incentive to give players to, or not give players, make players stick to the end of the game. You know, it's giving them that chance that they might be able to come back, because Gambits do score a lot of points here. I don't think they show it here. Yeah. One of the Gambits in the article from last week showed that if you had managed to score it, it was get a units within I want to say 9 of the table corners. If you were able to do that, you would score 30 victory points. Of course, you had to get in 3 out of the 4 table quarters to do that. But here you go. You're allowed to pick, draw your Gambit cards. You pick 2 Gambit cards to do the challenge, and then you get a 3rd card, which will be a null card. If you do take these Gambit cards, it does replace your primary objective, meaning you can no longer score the primary. You still keep whatever primary points you got on that, you just can no longer score it. And of course, if you choose to play the null card, you will still continue to do your primary objectives. But I don't know if it's close. If you're thinking you're gonna have to do a Gambit, I don't know if that will be a good strategy for you, but if you think you can edge it out, this is the best way to go. But it'll be interesting to see how this will play out, how well the Gambits will be played, because I honestly don't think the Gambits will be that big of a thing.
I think it's the interesting thing about Gambits is I think it's a way for them to mitigate the whole you could just talk the game out, because like, oh, like, yeah, at this rate you hold this point, blah blah blah, I hold this, you'll score this, because Gambits let you get a burst of scoring, which normally I believe the it's random, right? So a person could randomly draw a good Gambit they could easily accomplish and then get a blitz in points. And I think that's what they're trying to mitigate with these new rules. Now, is it gonna work? I don't know. We'll see. But it's still a interesting mechanic, to say the least. I think that it's it's their attempt at the end of the day to make the game work, for lack of a better word. But I don't know,
Well,
this whole article is. What were you gonna say?
no, go for it.
No, you first. You first. I want to talk about the whole article.
Well, I mean, it's just to give the. I mean, it's like what you said, right? It's so you don't talk, hammer math it out at the end of the game, where it's like, well, it's already turn 2 or 3. It's turn 3, and I've already, you know, wiped out 60% of your army. So this game isn't gonna go on much longer. Let's just cut our losses and just math hammer it out and see what we get here. At least with the Gambit card, when it does pop up, you might have a chance to get a boost in points, but it's also a real feels bad, right? I mean, granted, the Gambit is all about the player taking a risk to score a bunch of points and then maybe win off that, but if you're clearly winning the game and all that, and then you lose just because of that one Gambit, real feels bad moment. But again, that's the whole thing about making the losing player feel like they have a winning chance with this one advantage and sticking it out through the entire game instead of like, oh well, I've already lost, I might as well just, I don't know, either deny you points or just begrudgingly stick it out to the end of this game that I'm forced to play at this point. But what were you gonna say? What are you gonna say about the article?
I was gonna say it's still really complicated, to be honest. Like the whole secondaries, like you're adding a card game mechanic in the mix, and it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Tempest of War, I like Maelstrom. In 30K, the Maelstrom custom campaign I'm playing in, it's really fun. But like, holy cow, so you're essentially gonna need cards now to play 40K. And Maelstrom is now the standard, and while again I like Maelstrom, right, making that the standard, I don't know how I feel about that. It's just so complicated. Like, I'm reading this article and it's like this whole thing on missions, and maybe, I mean, maybe for my casual gaming group it's fine, and I'm fine with it, right? But like, this doesn't make me excited to want to go to a 40K tournament. Not that I'm excited at all to go to a 40K tournament, but this doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, especially because again I play other games like Legion, and I'm gonna play Shatterpoint. I'm gonna play War Machine, and the missions there are quite straightforward. Like for Legion, I'll talk more in hobby rants, but I played in a tournament and there was a game where it's just like, yeah, like grab the boxes, and if you hold more boxes, you win. And it's very simple, but the game is dynamic. Maybe it's just the game mechanics. Maybe it's not just the mission type, but with these, it's, what it is. Maybe it's just the IGO ecosystem. Maybe it's not necessarily the missions. Maybe it's just a symptom of the IGO Yugo, where you gotta do crazy stuff like this to make the game work, again, for a lack of better words. I mean, again, don't get me wrong, I'm hyped to play 40K 10th, but I really don't want to play in any event. And this makes me not care about playing in events. So,
Well,
I don't know. It's hard to say if it's good for the game overall. To me, it's just kind of complicated. Maybe it's fun. Maybe I just have to try it.
I am on the same boat as you. As you know, I'm not a big fan of card games, as I've stated before. I'm on the same boat. I need to play this system to see how I'm going to enjoy it. I mean, they are at the very bottom here. They do talk about the GT packs, so they are making their own grand tournament packs for the competitive scene here.
Okay, I'm reading the other article, and it seems that you could still choose fixed missions,
Yes, you can.
which I think that's good that there's that option to just not play a card game. So I guess that's fair. I guess that's fine because I would definitely just want to pick fixed missions and focus on that instead of worrying about
What random card?
drawing
What
more
random
cards.
mission you get?
Right. Okay, which is weird because I like the random missions in Heresy, but I don't know, just for 40k. Because in Heresy, right, when you draw, it's like hold objective 5, okay, or kill enemy HQ, okay, deny psychic power, okay. But here it's like secondary. At the end of your turn, if you control one or more objective markers in your opponent's deployment zone, you score 8 VP. That's pretty straightforward. But the other one's like, while this is active, each time an opponent starts a turn within range of objective markers destroyed, you score 3 VP. Blah blah blah. So, you know, note the VP are scored even if such unit is destroyed and subsequently. Well, that's fair. It's like an FAQ, but yeah, it's. I hope it's nothing too crazy. And it's already getting going in that direction, but
No, it
and then you
always
got
gets
Gambit.
more complicated when you get further and further to the launch date.
Yeah. So I mean, it's hard. Again, it's ultimately maybe it'll feel different playing it, but right now reading about it does not make me excited.
No. But that is so far what the game is looking like right now. So it's going to be dictated by the cards, depending on the missions that you get. I mean, there's flexibility on what you can do, but until I get my hands on it and I play a couple games of this, I'm gonna be very skeptical of this new mission system. But it doesn't look like either that they'll be adding any faction specific cards either. So no more random Space Marine Necron missions that are going to be added. Maybe in the future, maybe
Maybe
11th
for the future.
edition when they feel confident that they need to add stuff. So, but as of right now, looks like no faction specific missions.
Yeah.
But speaking of faction specific, let's go ahead and look at these faction focuses, starting with the Space Marines, since they were the first ones to get released here. So, I mean, what's there to say about the Space Marines? We got their detachment rules, got their combat doctrines, their devastated doctrines, which able to shoot when they advance, tactical, which allows them to declare charge and turn they fell back, and assault, be able to charge while they advance. So very different compared to what they've used to be. From previous editions. We got the Land Raider, which I believe we saw last week, but we're getting a little more info here. We're going to see the front and the back of the cards now. So back or front of the card, you can see the weapon profile and all the stats that it's coming with, and then on the back you can see what it can be equipped with. So obviously 100 killer missile can be equipped with 1 multi-melta, 1 stormbolter, and then it tells you what it can be transported with, what it's equipped with. So standard stuff: moves 10, toughness 12, 16 wounds, 6 plus leadership, 5 objective control. Typical stuff there. And then keywords, obviously, as we stated before, can take the Primaris Marines now. They also gave us good old Roboute Gilliman and his rules. So we finally got to see the Primarch here. Movement 8, toughness 9, 2+ save, 10 wounds, 5+ leadership, and objective control 4. So going over his stats here, we got his Hand of Domination, Rapid Fire 2, 30 inches, 2 attacks, Strength 6, AP 2, 2 damage. Not too bad. His melee weapon. Looks like he'll be a beast in combat here. 14 attacks with his sword. Strength 8, AP 3, 2 damage. And then he's got his Hand of Domination, which is 7 attacks, 14 strength, AP 4, 4 damage. So he's living up to the Primarch name, being able to actually do a lot of damage in combat here. In terms of his abilities, it looks like he's being able to add 1 to objective control characteristics of models and can reroll Battle Shock. That is his aura. He's Master of Battle. Has been destroyed. A friendly adaptive model. An attack targets a second enemy unit. You can reroll hit rolls and reroll wound rolls. So he's going to be able to keep his rerolls for units. That's going to be nice. And then Supreme Strategist, once per turn, you can target a friendly Spacemarine unit within 12 of this model with a stratagem for 0 CP. Can even do so for another unit in the army that has already been targeted with this stratagem this phase. So living up to his commander tactical prowess Rabute Gilliman status here. Other things here, we got the heavy onslaught cannon, range 24, devastating wounds, 12 attacks, strength 6, damage 1. As well as the heavy laser destroyer. I believe it increased range. I'm not too sure on that one. We're at 72 inches, 2 attacks, 16 strength, AP 4, and damage D6 plus 4. So that's gonna be devastating, which I think is more devastating than a las cannon. I have to take a look here on the Land Raider. Yeah, the Land Raider's D6 plus 1, so quite the difference in power there. And then we got the stratagem of only death as duty ends. This is going to be for 2 CP. Given how the CP works, it looks like you're going to be starting off with 0 CP at the start of the game, and you slowly generate as you as each turn goes. You'll generate one per turn. No word if there's going to be a cap. I assume there will be a cap on how many you can generate a turn, because we wouldn't want to have the Dark Eldar shenanigans that we had back in 9th edition. But so far, no word if there's a cap. But going by this, you activate this during the fight phase. You target one of your Space Marines as a target of one or more attacking of the units. Effect until the end of that phase. Each time a model in this unit is destroyed, if that model has not fought, do not remove from play. The destroyed model can fight an attacking model. Unit has finished making its attack, then remove from play. So a better God, what's it called? the banner that they have, where you roll on
Ancient?
a 4+, then they get to attack.
The
Yeah,
primary ancient?
yeah,
Or
yeah,
primary ancient?
the ancient. So for 2 CP, if you know a unit's gonna die and they're very powerful in close combat, just activate this for 2 CP and do devastating blows back. So pretty powerful stratagem if you can pull that off. But then again, stratagems are gonna be a little more costly, and you're not gonna be getting as much command points as you would in previous editions. But that's the Space Marines. Pretty solid. Not much I could add there. And I need to cough here for a second, so give me a second.
Mhm.
Alright then. Moving on to our next thing here. We got the Tyranids. And the Tyranids are actually something more fascinating to look at here, given some of their special rules here. So Synapse, previous edition Synapse was just, if you're within Synapse range, you're pretty much fearless. In this one, it looks like they want Battle Shock to be a thing for every army,
It's fine.
which we'll see more effective when we get to the Necron Focus here. So if you're within range of a Synapse creature, instead of 2d6 for your leadership, you get to roll 3d6. So your lower bugs will be able to have a better chance of not losing Battle Shock. Now the one that I know got a lot of buzz, Shadow in the Warp. I'm just going to read this off. If your army faction is Tyranids, once per battle in either player's command phase, sorry. If one or more units in your army with this ability is on the battlefield, you can unleash a Shadow in the Warp. When you do, each enemy unit on the battlefield must take a Battle Shock test. It could be huge.
Yeah, I like how it's thematic. I think they're really nailing the. I mean, we're going to see it more in this article, but I really like how they're nailing the thematic element of the Tyranids in this edition.
Yeah. And again, this could be very huge. This is a good way to. Obviously, this will probably be used more at the end of the game rather than, like the beginning or anything like that. Depending on what your opponent's, mission cards are. But denying anyone denying anyone objective control point or being able to use a stratagem, it's big. So very, very cool and thematic ability. And then they show off the Gene Stealers here. It looks like the Gene Stealers will not be getting a model update. Just going by the models on top here. Maybe they'll get a kill team or something when the new kill team starts off. But what they do get is they used to be able to infiltrate on the board. Looks like they now got replaced with Scout 8, which means they'll be able to start of the game move up 8 inches to the middle of the board if they'd want to. So their movement 8, so they could get across. They can get into combat turn 1 if the opponent deploys a little too far up. And let's see, toughness 4, everything else is the same. 2 wounds I think is new. I don't think they used to have 2 wounds. I think they were always 1. So now they're a little more beefier. Take a little more punishment. And each time each unit makes an attack roll, reroll wound rolls of 1. If the target is in range of an objective marker, you can reroll the wound roll instead. Okay. So they're gonna be very grindy when they get into combat, as Gene Stealers should.
Mm-hmm. And they kept the invul.
They kept the invul. Strength 4, AP 2 on their claws. So, very scary stuff here. The Crown King here, Swarm Lord, is a very spicy character here. So, I'll just go over his base stats here. Toughness 10, 10 wounds, leadership 7, objective control 3. Very tough bug here. His melee weapons, 8 attacks, strength 9, AP 2, 3 damage, twin linked, so that means he's re-rolling the wound rolls here on all his attacks. And then his abilities. So he is an epic hero, so you can only take one of him. At the start, Hive Commander. At the start of your command phase, if this model is on the battlefield, you gain 1 CP. So already gaining a lot of value out of him. Once per battle, this is the malign presence. Once per battle, your opponent uses a stratagem. If this model is your warlord and is on the battlefield, you can use this ability. If it does, until the end of the battle, increase the stratagem's cost of your opponents by 1 CP. As far as we know, because it hasn't been stated yet, you could probably use this on something like the command reroll and bump that up by 1, making that a lot more harder to get off. So that's pretty devastating. That's like not Agents of Vect. Was it Agents of Vect? I think it was Agents of Vect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Agents of Vect where you just increase the command point of one of the stratagems that, obviously your opponent's going to be using a lot of. So this is pretty good as well. And then Domination of the Hive Mind. While friendly Tyranids are within 9 of this model, your army of this model, that unit within this army synapse range. I butchered that somehow. While friendly Tyranid unit is within 9 inches of this model, that unit is within your army's synapse range. Okay. I'm missing something there, but overall, this is a pretty good model. Of course, what it all comes down to in the end is points-wise, but I'm pretty sure that this model will be taken, just given what it can do and how devastating it will be. But that is that. They're showing off another cannon here, the Rupture Cannon. It got nerfed a little bit here. It used to be 3 attacks. It's no longer 3 attacks. It's now 2. BS3, but it's got the heavy keyword, so if it stays still, it becomes BS2. It is strength 18, so wounding majority of the vehicles on a 3+. And then we got 2d6 damage, which I think used to be 3d6 damage as well. No, okay. I was inaccurate on the damage, but overall, pretty good. Long range firepower weapon there. Don't know if many people will take this, but again, it all matters on the points, which we have yet to know anything about. We don't know what any of the point costs are for any units so far. We got that, and then we got Endless Swarm, which was from one of the supplement books. I can't remember, but they actually made this a little bit better than it was in the other edition. So in your command phase, up to 2 Endless Multitude units in your army that are within synapse range of your army, or 1. What it does, up to D3+3 destroyed models are returned to each of those selected units. So that would be your Hormagaunts, Termagants, Gargoyles, and what are the dog ones called? Ripper?
Neurogons.
Neurogons, there you go. All those can get up. So, typically those are like 5 points a model. But being able to do that to 2 units, getting, 10 models, that's 50 points that you're bringing back to the field, and punishing the enemy player for doing like chip damage. Because D3+3, that's nothing to scoff at. That's a lot of models coming back.
Yeah, it's 5-1 average. It's pretty good.
Especially if they're able to target 2 units with this ability. And all that for 1 command point. It's crazy how good that is. But yeah, Tyranids are looking good. Looking good so far. I'm excited to see, because I haven't fought many Tyranids, which I'm pretty glad, because Tyranids in 9th edition, definitely not a fun army to fight against. Well, you got the long range that they were killing you from across the board with, and it was just so many awful combos. You got I'm blanking on the name. Hold on here. Hold on. Let me look this up really fast here.
Okay.
I'm blanking on the name. I cannot find it. It was the one with all the big monsters that were killing everyone. And then you got the Hive Guard.
Crusher Stampede?
There you go, Crusher Stampede. Yeah, that was a dark time. No one wants to remember that. But we got that going. Next up, Chaos Space Marines. They also got focused, because they are going to be one of the books that are coming up as well. So we got Dark Packs. This is going to be their army rule. If your army has Heretic Astartes, each time a unit with this ability is selected to shoot or fight, it can make a Dark Pack. If it does, select one of the following abilities. Lethal hits, sustain hits 1. Each time a unit makes a Dark Pack, after it resolves its attack, it must make a leadership test. If failed, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So, basically, trifling with the Dark Gods, seeing if you can gain their favor with these buffs. A little meh on this one right here.
On which one?
On the Dark Packs right now.
Oh, really? It's like +1 a hit, no?
I mean, sustain hits 1, yes, you can get a lot of hits out of that. But you're also trading possibly damage your unit there for the power.
We picked out the leadership test, but Chaos Marines are leadership. Where is it? 6+, which is the equivalent of, I believe, 9. So should be good.
Should be. We would hope so.
Yeah, I think it's actually. I read a lot of competitive talk that this is a really good ability because it's just free hits for a leadership test
Mm-hmm.
and D3 wounds on a two wound unit. I think on cultists it gets kind of tricky, but on on Chaos Marines that's pretty nasty with exploding hits,
It could be.
especially with Abaddon making you helping you reroll that. It's kind of just guaranteed. Like I'm hearing people, Abaddon next to some Havocs or Obliterators, just getting sustained hits. Seems pretty gross.
Well, of course, there's always combos you can do to make this even always more nasty. But going with Chaos Space Marines here, we do get to see their cards. Standard toughness 4, 3 up save, 2 wounds, objective control 2. I believe not much has really changed weapon wise for them. They do get the ability Veteran of the Long War. Each time a model in this unit targets an enemy unit with a melee attack, reroll wound roll of 1. If that enemy unit is within range of an objective marker, you can reroll the wound roll instead. So you got that them going on. For a lot of for GW saying that they want to limit the rerolling ability. They shares a lot of units with rerolling abilities.
Right. Maybe they just mean less HQs giving and buffs and more like units giving it back to units kind of thing. But I don't know. I mean, you're right. They did say less rerolls, but here's rerolls still.
Oh, here we go. We got Abaddon. Abaddon coming into play here. Surprisingly, he's only toughness 5. I figured he'd be like toughness 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
Given that Gilman is toughness 9, I think I said. So, I mean, I know he's not a Primarch or anything, and he's in like Terminator armor, but I kind of expected him to be a little bit tougher. But regardless, he's still a monster when it comes to him. So going by his Talon, range 24, 4 attacks, strength 5, AP 1, 2 damage with sustained hits. His combat abilities, he's got his Draknir, 8 attacks, strength 14, AP 4, 3 damage. And his Talon with 14 attacks, strength 7, AP 3, 1 damage. So do not take him out of the battle because he's still got it going on. He's got his War Master ability, which I believe he picks one of these a turn, if I recall.
Yeah, one of the abilities on the left you just mentioned.
Yeah. So he's got Paragon of Hatred. Any heretic within 6 inches of this model, that unit makes an attack, you can reroll the hit. Mark of Chaos Ascendant, Heretic Astartes Infantry or Astartes mounted unit within 6 of this model have a 4+ invul save. And then Lord of the Traitor Legion, while for any Space Marine unit within 6 of this model, you can reroll leadership battle shock task taken. Obviously, the third one is probably the one you're not going to be too worried about. You're most likely going to be going for the Paragon of Hatred with Abaddon, unless you really need to be defensive, and then you'll use his Mark of Chaos.
Yeah, it's good to have. I like the options.
Mm-hmm. It is nice to have. So there we go. That's the War Master. Then he also has Dark Destiny. Each time this model makes a Dark Pack and does not fail the resulting leadership test roll on a d6, roll a 2+, you gain 1 CP. So a very good way to generate some command points as well with good old Abaddon. Other notable facts here. Obviously, he has all the chaos markings. No cap on him. Sorry, let me rephrase that. No wound cap on Abaddon, which is probably something they're getting rid of, and because it was not a very enjoyable thing in 9th edition, all the wound capping.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
granted, it kept your monster / character alive long enough for them to actually possibly do something, but it was a very annoying mechanic.
I think with the new character joining rules, yeah, we need less. We don't need stuff like that anymore.
Yeah. But he's got all the keywords. He's now no longer Black Legion. He's just Heretic Astartes. So he'll be able to possibly join good old Death Guard or Thousand Suns now, but we'll
Maybe
see.
not. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't have a. Maybe they have their faction keyword is Thousand Suns or Death Guard.
Maybe. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see when we get there, but he will now just be generic Heretic Astartes, no longer Black Legion, which means you'll also get the generic Space Marines characters that can join in and not break any Legion abilities.
But there's no more Legion abilities. Remember?
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking old.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting how that's gonna function, right? Like how
Mm-hmm.
chapters interact and all that. Yeah. I'm curious to see how they're gonna streamline that. I mean, they mentioned kind of with the Space Marines, but I want to see how other factions deal feature that.
It'll be interesting to find out. But here's a model I haven't seen since 7th. We got the good old what is this thing called? The Helldrake. Bringing back its Bale Flamer, giving it D6 plus 3 attacks, strength 6, AP 1, 2 damage, torrent. So that means this thing's gonna be able to shoot all around itself again, just like in the good old days. Now that the arcing doesn't matter. So we'll have to wait and see if Helldrakes will make a comeback. It's hard to say. I mean, reading the rules, I mean, it all sounds great. But what it all comes down to is how many points was it going to cost? Because that'll be what it takes. And also, it doesn't give us any stats on the Helldrake. Obviously, it's just going over its weapon, but don't know how good the Helldrake is on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the Obliterators, their flesh metal guns, being 3 different profiles here. We got the Focused Malice, which is Melta 2. The Ruinous Salvo, which is the Blast. And then we got the War Pale, which will be the Sustain. D6 plus 3 attacks. D6 for the Salvo. And then D3 for the Melta. Keeping them nice and varied. So that's nice and on brand for the Obliterators to be. And then the stratagem, they got Dark Obstruction, which is a pretty nice ability if you wanted to do like a little Death Star with Abaddon and Terminators. Basically, you pick one heretic unit in your army that was selected as a targeted from an attack. Until the end of your phase, the unit has the stealth ability. In addition, we don't know what stealth does, but we assume it's going to be -1 to hit. In addition, if your unit has the Nurgle unit, until the end of the phase, that unit can only be targeted if they are within 12 inches. So since Abaddon has the Nurgle keyword, unsure if that will transfer over if he was in, let's say, a Terminator unit. Unsure if that'll be carried over into that unit, but I would assume it would be. And of course, a lot of other players are assuming that his keywords will carry over as well. But that's a nice way to keep your Death Star, your Abaddon, and whatever unit you want to keep alive. So not bad for a 1-point stratagem right there. So overall, I mean, it's not bad. Chaos Space Marines are looking good as well.
Yeah, I'm actually a fan of the dark pack thing. I think the risk there, it is risky, but I think the risk is thematic to what Chaos Space Marines are. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not terrible. Moving on, we got the Necrons. We'll quickly go over the Necrons here. So, Necrons. They got their reanimation protocols being changed yet again. So, each time a reanimation protocol reanimates D3 wounds. So, if a unit contains one or more models with fewer than their starting number of wounds remaining, select one of those models. That model regains one lost wound. If a model in that unit have their starting number of wounds, but the unit is not at the starting strength, one destroyed model is returned with one wound remaining. So we'll be able to bring back. You're basically bringing back models every turn, every command phase. So it's no longer you do all your attacks, I fail my saves. Once that unit's done attacking me, I roll again to see how many of my models will stand back up. Now it'll just be at the start of the command phase, the Necron command phase, I will just get X amount of models back. So there's that. The command protocols will be now when a Necron character model is leading this unit. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit rolls. So basically the my will be done kind of deals here, making the characters more impactful. We also got the monolith. They really want to hammer this monolith in. They want to sell it. Not gonna lie, I kind of want to buy one monolith just to have it. But here we go. We got its stats here. We got movement 7, toughness 14, which is it the toughest model we've seen so far? I can't recall.
That they've shown, I think so.
Okay, so toughness 14, save 2+, 20 wounds, leadership 7, and objective control 8. So this is a big model that'll be able to hold objectives. Pretty good on its own. Death Ray, 24, 1 attack, strength 12, AP 4, D6 plus 1 damage. God's Flares, lethal, rapid fire 3. 3 attacks, 3 plus 6 strength 6, AP 1 damage, or you can, and the particle whip, 24 inches, 3d6 attacks, 3 plus blitz skill, 8 strength, minus 1 AP, 2 damage. So it's got a healthy amount of weapons here. Of course, you either go between 4 Gauss Fluxes or 4 Death Rays. It's also got the Eternity Gate, which allows you to remove or bring in a Necron unit from reserves, or save them if you need to reposition a Necron unit that's not within engagement range. So you cannot just, if your unit of warriors are in combat with, some possessed, you can't just be like, all right, it's time to save this unit so I can shoot the possessed. They gotta be out of combat range, but still being nice to be able to reposition them if you need to do so. And then this has a degrading factor to it. Once it gets down to 7 wounds, its objective control becomes 4. So, and you have to subtract 1 from your hit roll. It's gonna be, they gotta do 13 wounds to you, which is possible. It is possible given some of the weapon strengths that we've seen out there. So that's the monolith. They give us the Necron Warriors. The Necron Warriors got nerfed a little bit here. They're gone back up to Blitz skill 4 with their weaponry. Obviously, the Gauss Flare has lost its AP, just like majority of things have lost their AP in this edition. And their ability is, their numbers is Legion, so they'll reanimate D6 wounds instead of D3, and if they're on an objective marker, they will regen D3 plus 3. So still be able to boost them up as much as you can, especially if you can get them on the objectives. So there are our warriors winning. The Doomsday Cannon is a little bit better now. It used to be weaker if you moved. The strength would be weaker, the AP I think would be weaker, and the damage would be weaker. Now you can move, and the only negative that you'll get is you lose your devastating wounds, but you'll still be D6 plus 1 attacks, hitting on, strength 15, AP 4 damage. So the Doomsday Arc is going to be, it's nasty if you don't move, but now that you can move, it's going to be even more nastier on what devastation it can do out there. We got that. We got the Void Dragon, giving its attacks. So anti-vehicle 2 with its strike attack, 5 attacks, strength 12, AP 3, D6 plus 2 damage. Or you can do its sweep with 10 attacks, strength 8, AP 1, 2 damage. It is going to be a monster. And then we got Protocol of the Hungry Void. It's not really going to be doing too much here. Basically, 1 Necron unit from your army that has not been selected to fight this phase. Until the end of the phase, add 1 to the strength characteristic of its melee weapons equipped with the model in the unit. In addition, Necron characters that are leading this unit at the end of their phase improve the armor penetration characteristic of the melee weapons equipped by your models by 1. It's not bad, it's not terrible, but this definitely be something situational that you'll use. if you have it on like unit of flayed ones or I don't know, canoptic wraiths, I'm sure it'll be pretty devastating, but you're like typical Necron warriors, not too much. But that is the Necron overview there. We got one more. We're gonna blaze right through it, and that is the Astra Militarum. Looking at this, voice of the command. This is their commands that they do and their command phase. They still have these. They got move, 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 which is now just add move. Add 3 to your move characteristic. I think it used to be add D6. I'm not too positive on that one. Fixed bayonets. Improve the weapon skill characteristic of the melee weapons by 1. Take aim, increase the ballistic skill by 1. I think it used to be increase the AP as well for take aim. So that kind of got nerfed a little bit there. First rank fire, second rank fire. Improves the attack characteristic of rapid fire weapons by 1. Take cover. Improve the save characteristic by 1. Which I assume you can do out in the open. So that's nice. And will stack if you're in cover. And then duty and honor, improve the leadership and objective control characteristic by units by 1. So, of course, this is all done in the command phase. You have to be within 6 inches of an officer to issue these orders. So, you'll be on the move with that. We got the Cadian Shock Troopers. Obviously, the biggest thing is the Lasgun AP is gone back down to 0, which makes sense. Everything else is pretty much the same. It's not much different here in the weaponry. The Baneblade. We got the Baneblade Cannon being 3d6, strength 12, AP2. Being big gun there. Everything else is pretty standardized. Looking at it, it's toughness 13, 24 wounds, leadership 7, objective 8. And its ability is the Rolling Fortress. Each time a range attack allocated with the Imperial Guard model on your army, if that model is not fully visible to every model in the attacking unit because of this Baneblade model, that model has the benefit of cover against that attack. So basically a living cover save for whoever is behind these this monster of a tank. So we got that. We got the saddest thing here. We got the Lehman Russ Battle Cannon. It's a D6 plus 3 attacks, plus skill 4, strength 10, AP 1, 3 damage. Given that this is probably the most common tank weapon for the Imperial Guard, I kind of expected a little bit more from this. Maybe 1 more AP, maybe 2 more strength, but I mean, it does have the blast keyword, so it's going to be good against horde armies, but expected just a little bit more from this. Going from that, we got the Volcano Cannon, which is D3 plus 1 attacks, AP 5, 12 damage, and strength 24. So range 96. I don't know why it needs such a long range, but it does. And of course, this will be killing whatever it touches. Let's be real here. Anything it touches, it'll be destroying. But that is that. Whether or not these will be taken, again, I'll just repeat myself, will be dependent on the points. Going to their stratagem, they got reinforcements. Again, this is a pretty good one for 2 command points here. You can do this any phase. 1 regiment unit in your army that was just destroyed, you can use the stratagem on that unit, even though it was just destroyed. Add a new unit to your army identical to your destroyed unit in strategic reserves. At its starting strength with all its wounds remaining. This stratagem cannot be used to return destroyed character units that were attached to it. So pretty good for 2 command points, being able to bring back a fully refreshed unit that you just lost and bringing them back full strength with every weapon that they had to cause more damage. It's a nice stratagem. And that is it. That is all the Warhammer news that we got there. And that is all the faction focuses that we have so far.
Yeah, so Ewoks are up for pre-order. So it's interesting because they are not, I mean, while they will be coming as a battle force for Star Wars Legion, they are not coming out in a battle force box, which is kind of like how Imperial Remnant was, which did not come in a box. However, Shadow Collective and all the other factions, well, main faction battle forces did come out in a box. So we got the ATST, which is a new kit. So they're going to retire the old ATST, I believe. They're going to replace it with this one. So this is a new hard plastic sprue ATST, not the kind of pre-built old one. So it's going to be a harder build, but it's in theory a more detailed model which you could pose better. It will come with new bits, which are the Chewie on the hatch or Commander Weiss. So you could theme your ATST to either an Imperial or stolen Rebel one. And it will come with the cards for Chewbacca. So the new Chewbacca, they do preview the cards. So the standard ATST stuff, 11 health, 8 resilience, 190 points, Arsenal 2. It has the incognito rule, which is kind of cool, where you cannot be attacked beyond range 1 unless you have performed an attack or done an objective action. He has Inspire 3, so he does help his fellow Wookiees out. And he has Weak Point Rear, which is... Actually, that's pretty standard for ATST. I don't know why I'm making that sound like a big deal. But big thing is he has Surge to Crit, which is crazy for a vehicle. Don't see that too often. Now, it seems that he can only be taken in the... What's the word? The Bright Tree Village Battle Force, which is the Ewok Battle Force. Unclear how he's going to fit in Rebels, if you can even take him in Rebels, but otherwise the Imperial version can be taken in any Empire army and will have the bits or the cards plus some extra cards to compensate. I think it's going to have the popular Surge to Crit command card, upgrade card. So it's exciting because now we got, we knew it was coming, but it's cool to see the model being redone for this release, not just for Rebel players, but also for Imperial players if you want a second, or if you're taking an ATST, or if you're thinking of picking up an ATST. Now is it's a good reason to do it. Following up for that, we got the Ewok Warriors unit expansion. So this is the basic Ewok unit, comes with 8 models. Now it seems that there's going to be 2 Ewok unit types. There's going to be a ranged version and a melee version. So this box lets you build either version, and in addition allows you to, or comes with some extra heavy weapon upgrades and personal upgrades. So this will be your standard unit for Ewoks. And they're also going to be mercenaries for Rebels. So they're going to work like Pikes and Black Suns, where they don't count for your minimum requirements. However, you can take them in your army. Got some cool Ewoks here. And then finally, we got the Law, Great, and Wicked Commander expansion. So you got your Ewok HQs, which I believe are also going to be mercenaries. It also comes with a command card for Chewbacca and the ATST. You know, if you already have an ATST, here's the command card for it. You don't need to buy the new one. And it comes with the C-3PO command card. So if you have a C-3PO or you want to pick up C-3PO to use them in your Ewok army, it does come with a command card that lets you run C-3PO as your commander. Also comes with some command cards for the Bright Tree Village Battle Force, and it looks like you'll be able to include Leia since she does have a new command card that's Leia and Wicket. Now, actually, I'm not 100% sure if you can use Leia in the Battle Force. Maybe it's just a card that lets you use Wicket and Leia in a regular Rebels army. However, they do mention that you could have Rebel troopers and Rebel commandos in your Ewok army to kind of simulate what happened in Return of the Jedi, where the Rebel forces were being supported by the Ewoks. So that's really cool. It comes with actually 5 command cards, one of which we haven't seen yet. But yeah, that's going to be the Ewoks coming for Legion. Release date 7/21. Super exciting. I am not picking up any of these models because I am not playing Ewoks. However, I do know a lot of people who are super excited for this, and Ewoks are a pretty popular element of Star Wars, and being able to field them in games of Legion where they could fight valiantly against the Dark Troopers and battle droids is going to be fun times. I definitely can't wait for Geonosians to come out so I can have some Geonosians versus Ewok action. That's the excitement that's coming up. But yeah, more stuff on the horizon for Legion. So now we got this coming in July. We got Ahsoka coming next month. Cody just came out. Looks like we're sticking to monthly releases for Legion, which is great, especially with Shatterpoint coming out too. Lots of Star Wars stuff going on.
Lots of good stuff coming out in the tabletop gaming. All right then. Well, I think we're made it to the end there of all our news topics. Hobby and gaming wise, what have you been up to, John?
So yeah, actually went to a Star Wars Legion tournament this Sunday yesterday. It was a 16-player tournament over at Geeky Tees. 800 points, so it's a full game. The only requirement is everyone has to bring a heavy choice. I actually was practicing with different lists with heavies, so I with like Boba Fett and Dark Troopers, Imperial Commandos and Dark Troopers, even Maul Bus. But eventually, the day of, I was super tired from a long work week, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna plop down double Dark Troopers in a tank. And yeah, I went 2-1 and got third place out of 16. It's pretty fun. Second game was super intense. Played against a really good player, and I squeaked out a win by killing Darth Maul and surviving some, boatloads of anti-tank fire against my Dark Troopers. And the third game, I played against the head judge of LVO, and almost won. Super close, super fun game. I played him a few times, a good amount before, and yeah, super close game where I ran away with the objectives and forced him to chase after me across the map. But eventually, he was able to force a stormtrooper unit to drop one of the objectives by killing them, thus winning the game in kill points. So that was super fun. Yeah, ended up third place. Pretty happy with that performance. I mean, double Dark Troopers are pretty scary, especially if you're not ready for it. But I figured, in this tournament, it doesn't feel as crazy because everyone's expecting a heavy, so people are bringing the impact. And yeah, people definitely brought a lot of anti-tank weapons, especially that third game against LJ. I essentially just made a beeline for the center objective and tried to run away with it because there's no way I could have won a slugfest against this droid army with all, he had ion weapons and he had the tank. So yeah, I tried. Yeah, I mean, Dark Troopers are super powerful, but they're beatable if you know they're coming or if you bring impact. But yeah, that was my weekend. I think we're gonna have a new 30K map or planetary empire style campaign. So that's super exciting. We had our first meeting going over the rules, and we're gonna start playing. I think this week. So that's gonna be exciting. But yeah, what about you? What's up with the hobby rants?
Well, before I get into mine, what does the 30K campaign entail? If you don't mind me
It's
asking.
just like a planetary empires thing where you play games and conquer territories. It's not too crazy. It's just kind of a thematic thing based on the Beta Garmin campaign in the narrative. So yeah, I'm curious to see how it eventually works because planetary empires is that classic map system that people talk about but don't really play.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Fun. Well, me, I just think the only game I did play, because again, I'm on my 40k fasting right now. I did some Betrayal on the House of the Haunted Hill.
Oh yeah,
Did I say that name right?
yeah. How'd that go?
Uh, I'm gonna say this. Maybe because we're playing third edition, but the rules, reading the rules, are not very helpful in that game.
Yeah, that
We,
that. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, we got through it, but there's like some things that we were like, are we doing this right? This doesn't seem right, but the rule book doesn't specify anything here.
Yeah, that's an issue. One of the issues people had with that game, even with second and first edition, is that yeah, it was just kind of unclear.
Yeah,
Even and I guess I mean, especially because I think that's the game where every mission is different. So you have to spend time mid game to read the rules, which could get annoying. But yeah, it's sometimes it's not very clear what you need to do, and you do spend a lot of time reading the rules on that one. But I mean, I like how it's thematic, but yeah, like every mission being different is kind of a pain.
well, every mission being different, and it's not the problem. It's just like specific rules that we need to understand, and it's just
Hmm.
like it doesn't tell us what we can do and what we can't do
I see.
specifically. It'll be
I see.
like one of our killers didn't know how if he could use his like two special abilities in the same turn. He assumed that he could only use one at a time, given how it was worded. But rereading it over and over again, came to the conclusion that you could use both special abilities at the same time. You didn't have to. It wasn't a one or the other kind of deal. It was, if it allows it, you can use both abilities.
Mm,
And he's like, oh, well, I would have won this game a lot faster if I had known that. And it's like, oh, that's not a good sign. But yeah, that's what we did. We played about 3 games of Haunted Hill, and it was a fun game. I do enjoy it. Again, I just wish the rules were written a little more clear on what they did and stuff. Because I was looking up like what was critical stats, and that's when your abilities get down to the red. That's considered a critical stat.
mm,
And I'm like, what the hell is a critical stat? Because I got a card that says every turn I can heal one critical stat.
I see.
It's like, is that just I just heal a stat no matter what until I get to the green? Is that my critical? Blah blah blah. Whatever. Either way, regardless of the rules, I had fun, and everyone else had a lot of fun playing that game too. Especially when we got a mission where anyone could be the killer,
Oh, that's fun.
and we just started beating each other up because that's just how the group is. We like to cause chaos. But yeah, I had a lot of fun there. Hobby wise, haven't really done anything. Haven't done anything. I've been slacking on my hobbying as of now, but hopefully we will pick up some more here. Kickstarter wise, I'm waiting, still waiting for the shipping code to come out, but they did say mid-May we will we should have the tracking numbers sent out to us. So
Woohoo.
it's about time. We're almost there. Anything else you want to add before we close up here?
I think that would be it.
All right, then. I'd like to thank everyone who made it to the end here, and we'll see you next time.
Later, everyone.